Morning.
Okay. So just as Josh said, this week 4, we have a lot to cover. And since I've not received most of your assignments, I can't gauge whether all that I have taught you so far, you have been able to absorb it. But all the same, that's why we'll have the in-person training tomorrow. So all the same, we'll continue. And then, as I said, if you have any problem, please, you can contact me at any time so that we can get it resolved. Share, share. Hello, please, I hope you can see my screen. Hello?
Yes, please.
Okay, so today is lesson 4, so I'm going to create a new file, lesson4.py. So today, okay, so a recap of quickly what we did last week. So last week, we looked at, I think, set dictionary, and then I think tuple. And then we looked at decision making, if statement. And I think we also look at the for loop statement and the while loop statement. Yes. Then we look at pass, break, and continue. We didn't look at user input and we didn't do exception. So those are the two things we did, or we were we able to do those two things with exception?
No, please.
We didn't do exception, we didn't do user input.
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay, so let's look at user input. Okay, so in Python, the input function will allow you to interact with a user through the keyboard. So anytime you want the user to enter something through the keyboard, use the input function. So it provides you with a prompt, and whatever you enter will be either you can assign it to a variable or you can store that information in a variable. But mind you, anytime you use the input statement, whatever is returned to the computer will be converted to a string. So that's the caveat. Whatever the input function brings to you will be in the form of a string. So you might have to typecast it to the type of format you want for you to be able to do what you want to do with it. So that is the caveat there. Okay, so let's look at an example of an input statement. So I can say name is equal to input. Now, this would work perfectly. I can also provide you, the user, more information by saying enter your name. So all of these two will provide the user the opportunity to enter something. But this one, because I did not provide any help text inside the function, it will just bring you a question mark. So let me go to my terminal. Let me comment this particular one. Let's run this particular one. I'm in my PowerShell, so I click on the arrow here, convert it to a command prompt. Okay. So it will be Python lesson4.py. Okay, so I didn't save what I just did. So let me save it and rerun this again. So you see, I have a cursor here, but the cursor is not giving any valuable information to the user. If I say name and I press enter, that's it. So we can provide a help text with the input function for the user to know what he is expected of. So let me comment this particular one and I'll comment this one, save it again. When I run it again, see that it says enter your name and then the prompt is there. So at least the user knows that he's supposed to enter the name. Now I've assigned the information to this variable called name. So whatever I enter will be stored as name. Okay, so I'm going to say print, then I want to print the type of name. Let me run the program again. Enter name. So if I enter 7, I press enter. you see that I enter service. Service is a integer, but you see that it's giving me information that it is a type, a class string. So anytime you use the input function, it convert anything you type to a string. So if you want it as an integer, you will need to typecast it or convert it to the type you want. And you see that we shouldn't trust a user. We see that when I was asked to enter a name, I entered an integer. So if you do not test and make sure that the user has entered the right information, your program might crash because the information you wanted was not what the user entered. Okay, so let me do another variable, age. So age, I'll say int into brackets input. And the reason I'm doing it this way is that I want to convert whatever I enter as an integer. So I can say enter your age. Now, so from what we've learned so far, I can do a string formatting. And I'll say message is equal to your name is and you are, so dot format, and then I pass it name and age, and I say print message. Okay, so what we are doing is that we are asking the user to enter two information. So the first one is enter your name, which will be stored as a variable called name. The second one is enter your age, which will be stored as a variable called age. But we are converting it as an integer first before we store it here. Then I'm using string formatting to make it nicely into this string that I've created, and I print it out. So then I save this and then I run the program again. Enter your name. So Walter, age. So your name is Walter and you are 2 years old. So that becomes the output that I have gotten. So we saw that we use typecast to convert whatever we entered as age to an integer. If we don't do that, it will convert it to a string. In printing it out, we will not have any problem. But when you want to do any computation with it, because it's a string, you might get an error. So it's very important to know that when you are using the input function, anything that you return would be stored as a string. Any questions so far? Can I continue?
Yes, sir.
Good. So from what we've learned so far, let me add some things to it to make it spicy, to see how we can combine what we've done so far. Now, I'm converting whatever I type as an integer. Mm. Let me save this, rerun it again. So what is your name, Walter? How old are you? Let me put 4. Instead of typing the letter 4, enter. So we get an error telling you that invalid literal for integer. That what it means is that I'm trying to convert a string to a number. That is why I've gotten this error. And mind you, please note this error well. You might see this error in some of your codes and you might get confused. What is happening? You need to know that I'm trying to convert something to another type and then I'm not converting it to the right way. So you saw that your program has broken because we got a value error. Value error. So I want to tie this into exception. Now, as you write your program, there are some conditions that you might not have thought about. So we use exceptions to be able to catch those exceptions and give a favorable answer to the user instead of this type of error. This will not be nice in a production environment whereby you've written your program and then somebody is using it and gets this particular error. So there's something we call try and accept. Okay, so use it to be able to test for conditions. So for example, we got the error with the age because we want you to type a number, but a user, as we know, we shouldn't trust a user. A user can type something else than a number. So we can put the try block here. So what we are saying is that try this. If you get an exception, you should can print something and then you can say enter the enter a number, not text or string. Let me save this. Now, mind you, when we entered and we got this error, look at the way the error came. It's a value error. Let me copy this. Let me put it somewhere. I'll comment it. We will use it. Okay. Now, this type of try and accept I'm using is a general try and accept. I will explain what it means by that. Let me run this program. Let's see the output. So now what's your name? Walter. How old are you? I put 4. When I press enter, now we are getting an error saying that the message age is not defined because when we did this try, it tried to convert it to an age, but it couldn't. So the exception should let this print. It should print this particular one for you, which it printed. Enter a name, a number, or text or string. Enter a number, not text or string. But because we had this information still down here, it will try to print it. So I can copy all this information and put them under this particular in my try block. So anything in my try block will execute if everything is correct. Else, to give you a warning that enter a number, not text or string. So let me clear this, rerun the program again. Walter, and I put 4. So I get the error. Enter a number, not text or string. Good. And the program has closed. If I rerun it again, and this time I entered my name and enter 2, now it tells me your name is Walter and you are 2 years old. So this is a way you could use exception so that you do not get any computer generated error which you don't want your users to know about. So you put everything in your try. If there's any error, the exception will take over and then it will work. Now you saw that this exception is a general exception we are trying to catch. We can also catch that particular exception if you know the exception you want to catch. So for example, that information we got, the error we got shows that we are getting a value error. So I can catch this particular value error. So what it means is that if what the exception I get is not a value error, the program will continue. But if the exception I get is a value error, then it will let me know that I need to enter a number, not text or string. So let me save this. Let me rerun it again. So Walter 4. You see that everything worked perfectly because we were trying to catch a value error. And the error we also got was a value error. So it came nicely like that for you. Now, now, if you know the type of exception you are going to get, you can even use comma and specify all the exceptions that you think you can get and the error that you want to display. Now, if for instance, I don't know the exception that I'm going to get, I can decide to just say exception, except, and then print like this. Now, there's also another way. You can also say try. Okay, so let me explain this too. Now, with this line, what I'm telling the system is that it should catch all exceptions, but it should label it as E. And then I can print the message and the arguments that came with that exception. Let me save this. Let's run it. Let's see. So Walter 4. Okay. So with this one, we get the first error, value error. And it tells you that the e.message told you that during handling of the above exception, another exception occurred. And okay. E.message. Okay. It says that E doesn't have any attribute called message. So let me just print E and see the attribute that comes. Okay, so E is the message, invalid literal for int with base 10 for 4. So comma E dot args. Okay, so the argument is the same information, invalid literal for integer with base 10 4. Okay, so the information here or the error message you are getting is that it was trying to convert 4 to an integer, but we had an error because it cannot convert the letter 4 to an integer because of base 10. Okay, so if you just want to catch all the errors, you can just use except. If you know the particular error, you can provide that particular error as an argument to the except, or else you can also catch all errors as exception and store it as a letter E. And then you can print the error and the arguments or the information, more information about the error. Now, it's up to you to know the type of error that you want your user to use. So normally we use a try and except to catch the error and provide a friendlier error message to the user than allowing the user to see this. So this error like this, no, anybody or even a hacker knows that, oh, okay, so the guy is using a try and accept method in his code and he is trying to convert whatever I give it as an integer. Okay, so I entered 4, which is a string. That is why it gave me that error. Okay, so now what can I do to bypass this? Then the guy starts thinking. So instead of this error, you can just provide him with a nice error that enter maybe a string or error processing, try again. You don't have to give the person too much information. So we use a try and accept to catch errors. So anywhere in your code that you think that is going to be an error and you don't want your program to break, use a try and accept to be able to catch that error and give a nice output and then let the program what continues. Any questions so far? Any questions so far? Please, can I proceed?
Yes, sir. Maybe we'll wait for an example so that it'll go down. So you
Okay.
can proceed.
Let's say you want to give another example. Okay. Okay.
Not
So
if you, I mean, I'm just looking at maybe a very practical one. That's why I'm saying an example.
okay. So we are going to let's do a simple calculator. So print welcome to cal version 1.2. Okay, enter first number. Okay. Okay, so I'm trying to do a simple basic calculator for us to use and see the type of other errors we can encounter. So I'm first going to print welcome to Cal version 1.2. Then enter your first number. So that will be stored as A. Enter second number, that will be stored as B. Then, oh, input, the operations. Enter either plus, minus, multiplication, or division. And that will be stored at X. So now I want to make a decision with what I'm getting. So I'm saying that if X is equal to plus, that means addition. So I'm going to say print first. I'll say result will be an integer of A plus an integer of what? B. And then I'll say that this plus this is equal to this. And I'll put it as a format. So format A, comma B, comma, then the results. So let me save this. Let me just try it and let's see something. So when I run this one, welcome to car one version 1.2, enter your first number. So I say 3, enter second number 5. So enter plus or minus or multiplication. So I'm going to do addition. Enter. So it tells me 3 plus 5 is equal to 8. So perfect. So let's try the other multiplication, the other mass operators. Okay, so you know that if you are doing multiple tests, then it is else if. So L if X is equal to, so let's do the minus. So this time it's going to be the integer of A minus B, and then it's going to be minus here, and the answer will be the same thing. Okay, so L if X is equal to, what again can we do? Multiplication. And then it's going to be this multiplied by this. And the information will be printed out. So we are testing all. So L if X is equal to, the last one is division. Okay, so division is going to be this divided by this. So then else to print wrong operator. So I'm testing if I entered a plus, minus, multiplication, or division. Else it should tell me that the operator you entered is wrong, because as we said, don't trust a user. You give it an instruction that you can, the person should either enter this or this, but he can decide to enter something else. So I test for all the conditions I'm asking. So if all the conditions are not met, then it means that you didn't enter the right operator. Then the program will close. Okay, so let me save this. Let's run it again. Okay, so please give me one number. Anybody should give me a number.
4.
4. Okay, someone should give another number.
6.
6. Okay, so what are we doing? Are we adding? Are we subtracting? Are we multiplying? Are we dividing? What should we do?
Subtract.
Subtract. So I use a minus sign. I press enter. So it says 4 minus 6 is equal to -2. We get it. Now, let's try it again, and then let me say that
Hello, sir.
yes,
Please, the
mhm,
division, the
yes,
the the thing that you used to do, the division. I'm just asking. Maybe we should try it and see what will happen. But you've
yes.
done a
This
division and no, you've done a division and plus. The last one, LFX.
sorry,
It's line 25.
sorry, sorry.
Can we try it and see what will happen?
Okay, so give me two numbers.
6 and 3.
And we are dividing. So 6
Yes.
divided by 3 is 2.
It's
Now, okay, so the plus was there, so I need to just clear that plus from there.
see.
Division, okay. Yeah. Now, do you notice something? The answer we got was 2.0. 2.0. 2.0 is a what? Float. So what I wanted to test, what I wanted to test again, I wanted to test again. So let's say I have 3.5 and I have 2. And I want to add. So you see, we get an error telling you that it couldn't convert 3.5 to an integer. Because 3.5 is a float. It's not an integer. So it means that this program we have written will work, but it will not work under some circumstances. So therefore, we need to test for those circumstances and then be able to give proper error messages. So we could have said that all of this will be inside a what? Try. And then accept. And this time we saw that what we're catching was the error we're getting was a value error. So you can catch this exception and say that enter only integers. Let me save this, run this program again. So 3.5 and then 2. And I want to do addition. So now you see I got the error message has come here. Enter only integers. So we didn't get this all this not pretty error message. So we have catch this exception. This exception is a value exception. And I said that when we get a value exception, print this information rather. So you see that when we entered this information, we got this error. It printed only this information, enter only integer. So we've given a user a very nice and pretty word information instead of all this information telling you. So you see that the user would have seen that you're running a program from c/py.lesson.py underline 15. This is the error, the message, this is the information underline 15, and this is the error message you got. So this is very good for you debugging. If you as a person who's writing the program, you can see this error, but as a user or the third party or the person who's going to use the software, this information is not good. And even if it's a hacker now knows that under your drive C, there's a folder called py, and the file is lesson.4.py. And under line 15, this is where this information error is coming from, which is not advisable. So that's why we use always try an exception to catch errors and then give a prettier result to the user than giving him more information that the person is supposed to get. Now, but we can make this program nicer and we can add more things to it. So for example, you see, you're converting them all to integers. So we can decide to either convert them all to a float. A float will give you a clear playing field, because sometimes somebody might enter an integer, sometimes somebody might enter a float. So it's better to let us convert all to a float. So by converting all to a float here, then I don't need to convert it here again. So I can say A plus B, and I can say A minus B, I can say A multiplied by B, and I can say A divided by B. Let me save this. When we rerun this program again, if I say 3.5 and I put 2 here, okay, sorry, I left the F there. Let me save it again. Clear the screen, run the program again. So 3.5 and then 2. And when I say plus, it gives me 3.5. You see that it has converted the 2 to a float, so 2.0. And then we got the answer 5.5. So we are getting closer to getting a perfect what calculator. Now, we still can obtain errors. Let's try again. Let's do something. If I entered 0, then I entered 2, and I was trying to divide. So 0.0 divided by 2.0 is what? 0. Okay. Let me see another scenario. So I entered 2, I entered 0, and I want to divide. Okay, so I get this another error, that zero division error, which means that I cannot divide by 0. So I can also catch this exception here. I can say cannot divide by 0. So let me save this and then rerun the program again. Okay, multiple exception without parentheses. I need to put them in the parentheses. Okay, save. Okay, so 2, 0, divide. So I get the error, cannot divide by 0. So this is a very nice error than all this information that you are giving to the user, which is not advisable. So that's how we can use a try and accept. Any questions so far? Any questions so far?
No, sir.
Okay, so we can proceed. Okay, so the exceptions, we could have catch all the exceptions and then giving you pretty information about all the exceptions. So could have done it this way. Okay, so we can do various except to catch individual exception and give individual answers to those exceptions, so that we do not put them all as one and give only one generic answer. So this is how we can do it and give. So if the exception was a value exception, this is what will come. If the exception was a zero division error, this is what will be printed out for you. Okay, so that is all we have to look under try and exception. Now, with this calculator, I will be giving you various scenarios for you to make it something that is what more nice. So, for example, we can put this in a loop, and then this calculator, when you start it, this calculator will always be working till you quit it. So you could have put it in the while loop or a for loop to if you want to calculate something some number of times. You can do that so that this calculator will always be working. So, because you see that when we do it once, it stops. You have to do it again before we start again. So you could have used a while loop and then be able to run this calculator till we are ready to stop. Then we stop. So that's how you can combine some of the things we've learned so far. Okay, so if there's no much question, let's move on to the next thing we want to look at. Okay. We are going to look at functions. Now, in Python, a function is a block of reusable code. So anytime you see that you are repeating yourself, then that thing you are repeating is advisable to put it into a function. So I can call it multiple times in your code. So that's how we use what? We use functions. Any block of reusable code that performs a specific task should be put into a function. So a function will help you to organize and restructure your code and break your code into smaller portions. So anytime you have a big code and you want to break it down to a smaller portion, then you should think about what functions. Now, to create a function in Python, we use the def command definition. So def greetings. Okay, so this is a function. So a function has a name. The function can take arguments or it can take no arguments. And I've put pass here because I have not put any valuable information there. So pass. So this what it means that when I call this function, it will just nothing will display. So let's continue and then we look at some examples and see how we are going to go about it. Okay, so I can provide a variable to my function. So I'm providing name and I want to print. Okay, this is a function I've created. When I run this function, this file, nothing will come because this function I've created, I have not called it. I've just defined a function, but I have not called that function. So let's see how we can call the function. So I call a function by calling the name of the function. So the function is what greetings, and then I can provide it a variable. So I can say Walter, save this. When I run this, it is hello Walter. Now I could have also said name is equal to Walter and then provided that same name here. When I run this, I still get. Now I can use another variable. Let's say a and put a here. Let's see whether we'll get the same results. So even though I call the function with a parameter called name, you can provide it any information. That information in the function, it knows that I need a parameter and I'm calling it name. But when I call the function, I gave it another variable. So this variable will now be looked at as name and then it will work perfectly. So it is not that I use name here, so I should use name here. Anything I provide with it, it will convert it will give it as a name, and then it will work in my function. So that is how to call a function. So from what we were doing with our calculator, we can start providing what functions help us. So let me uncomment our calculator and see how we can use functions instead. So I can provide a function called add, and add should take two variables. Now a function can return or print information. So far, the two examples we saw, the function was printing information. We can let the function also return information. So this is add. It's going to return this information for us. It's going to return the answer of adding A to B. Okay, so I've created these functions: add, subtract, multiply, and then divide. So what I can do is that all I'll say is that from here, I'll call the add, and then I provide it with the two information. Now this is returning, so I want to print it out. So I could have just done it this way: add into bracket A comma B. Okay. Now, so this add A comma B, the add is a function. So I've divided, so to look for add, and then I to provide these two variable A and B. Now it's going to do A plus B and return the information. That information will be put and represented by what is happening here. So format B and then my function which is going to add. So A will be here, B will be here, and the result of the addition of A and B will be put here. So by using a function, I have reduced my code small. So here to it will be what? Subtract A comma B. And then I don't need this information here. And here too will be multiply A comma B. Then this one will be divide A comma B. Okay. Save this. Can rerun this program again. We should get the same information, but this time we've used what? Functions. Oh, sorry. I wrote 2,5. So I get a value error. But why did it catch? Okay. I was trying to convert it here. So as you saw, my try was from this portion. So they couldn't catch the value error. So I can delete this try here. And then I can start from here. I put a try here. Then save. So if I rerun this program and I say 2,5, I get the error converting input. Okay. So let me run the program again. So 2, 5, and I'm adding. So we get the same answer. 2 plus 5 is 7. And so what we did was that we have created functions to do the work. So what we can even do is that we can also do some tests here. We can use our if statements in this function to test some things even before the answer will be returned. So for instance, this division error here, we could have done it that if B is 0, then it should give you an error. Okay, so let's look at it this way. So I can say that if B is equal to 0.0, because whatever we are converting them to a float. So 0 will be 0.0. So if B is equal to 0.0, then sure, we can say you can say return 0. So if B is not 0.0, then it will return A divided by B. Let's save this. So let's say 2, 0, and then we are doing division. Okay, so we got the error that cannot divide by 0 because this exception has picked it up. So let's see why we didn't get it from our division here. So let me print B. I want to see whether B will be 0, 0.0 or it came out as 0. So 2, 0, division. Okay, so it is 0, not 0, 0.0. Okay, save this. 2, 0, division. Okay, so what we are getting from this information is that our division is here. It is inside our try block. So the try block is handling the error of 2 divided by 0. Now, but we have a function here which is divide. Okay. And we are printing B first before we are trying to see if B is equal to 0. It should return 0. Okay, when you return 0, 0, 0 still is going to be divided by the answer, so to give you error. Okay, so let's see. Let's try and use a break statement here and see whether we can break out. Okay, so break should be inside the loop. This is not a loop. Okay. There's a command called exist, which will close your program for you. So let's try that and see. So 2, 0, we are dividing. Good. So we see that the try statement is taking precedence over all that we are doing in our function. So it is still using the try and catching all our errors here for you. So you see how powerful the try statement is. So that one didn't work. Okay. Let me see something. Save 2, 0. There. Okay. So the way we have started our code, our try exception is doing the work perfectly for us. So there's no need for us to even do anything within our code here. Okay, so we've seen that to create a function, we use a def keyword and the name of the function. The function can either not take a parameter or can take as many parameters as you want. So even if you have a list, you can even define so a function can take any of the data types. Okay, so anytime you have any code that you see that you are repeating a lot, it is advisable to put it into a function. So a function can either return something back to you or process or print something out. So that is it for a function. Any questions so far? Any questions so far? Okay, so the next thing you're going to look at import in Python. Now, our introduction lesson that we did, we saw that Python has a lot of standard libraries, over 13,000 plus standard libraries. And these standard libraries are all models, or you can even say function or piece of code that have been written to do a specific task. So for instance, if I want to communicate with a mouse, there is a package or a model that has already been done. So if you know the name of that package, we will see how we can use the import command to import those packages into our program, and we'll work on it. Some of the packages too are not in the standard library, so you have to install it. To install a package, we use the pip command, pip, P-I-P, and the name of the command. Okay, so there's a command called SQL Alchemy. SQL Alchemy is a database toolkit. This SQL Alchemy can talk to almost 25 databases in the that are in existence. It can even talk to Excel, Access, and other databases. So if you are working with data and you're even doing data processing, and you have a CSV file, Excel file, you can pip install this particular package and then be able to use it to be able to do what you want to do. For instance, if you want to also work with APIs, some of the APIs to are there that you might have to install some packages to be able to do. So, for example, those who do web scraping, there's a package called Beautiful Soup. So you can pip install Beautiful Soup, and then with Beautiful Soup, you can provide the URL of the website, and you can give it some information. It will go to that website and pick that information based upon the criteria you gave it. That's what we call web scraping. So with there's over 13,000 packages which are already there. We also have a lot of them which are in the standard library that comes pre-packaged with Python. So that one you can just import it and then use it. But there are others which doesn't come with Python. So that one you have to use the command pip install and the name of the package. So you can go to the you can just say pip and search. There's a repository. You can go to that website and then you can search for what you are looking for, and then they'll give you the model that can do it. So you have to pip install the model, and then each model has it the way we use it. So you have to also learn how to use that model and then use it to do what you want to do. So today we're also going to look at how we can import some models and then use them in our program. So there's a model called mass that we are going to install. We also have date and time model that we can also use to work with date and time. So the model method, the mass method is helps us to do various mathematical functions in Python. So for instance, if I want the square root of a value, that I can use the mass model to do that. So what I will do is that I will just say import mass. Mass comes already with Python. So just import mass work. So let's say A is equal to input, enter a number, and I will give you its square root. Okay. So I can say square root is equal to mass dot s. Okay. So this is a simple program that we want to be able to get the square root of a number. So instead of me doing it the manual way, there's a library called mass, which I can call, and it can give me square roots. It can give me those other log and all those type of mathematical computations. So with this, I'll accepting an input, asking a user to enter a number, and then I'll give you the square root. Then I call the mass model and the function called square sqrt, and I give it the information I got from the user, and I put the answer, I square it and put the answer in square root, and I display it out to the user. So when I run this program, enter a number and I'll give a square root. So let's say 5. Okay, so we see that it's telling us the number should be a real number. We are getting a string, and that's true. We should have converted this to a float or to an integer. So let me save this again, run it. Okay, so the square root of 5 is 2.23 something. Okay, let me rewrite again. Let's use something we all know. The square root of 25. Square root of 25 is 5. You all know that one. So this is how I can import a model and then be able to use it in Python. So let's look at another model. Let's look at another model. We're going to look at the date time model. Okay, so I can just say import date time. So this, let me uncomment all this, doing something new. So I import date time. Now, this date time model is a very, very powerful model. So for instance, if I want to get the current date and time from this the computer I'm using, so I've imported the model. The model is datetime. So datetime.datetime.now. So datetime is the name of a model. There's a function called datetime and there's another function called now. So I've called all of them and put the answer into a variable called now. This will get me the current date and time. So when I run this, it tells me that the current date and time, like this, you can make it prettier. There are ways we can go about to make it very nice than what you see here. But this has given you the information now. So for instance, when I have a program and the program wants to check and make sure that you have entered the date should not be maybe more than 1 week, and I get the current date. There's another model, another function called time delta. Time delta can give me 1 week before the date or 1 week after the date, and I can check whether the information you provided for me falls within it. If it falls within it, I know that you've given me a correct date. So there are so many practical ways we can use these mods. Now, if I want the current date only, then date time date dot today will give me today's date, but the date time dot now will give me the current date and time. So when I save this and I run this, the first one gave me only the current dates. This one gave me the current date and the current what time. Now there is a command called, we've seen dir, but dir2 can also be used. Python 2 has a dir command. So if I want to list all the functions that a model has, I use a dir and I put that function that I've imported here. So when I save this and I run this, it tells me that it has max year. I can get the max year, minimum year, UTC. I can get all information about it, all built in cache, docs, files, loader, name. I can get the package, specific, date, sys, time, time delta. I mentioned time delta. I can even get a time zone and TF information. All are information I can get and use. These are all the various models, functions within time date that I can use to do my work. So let's look at some of them. So if I say datetime, then that means I want to get date and time. Datetime.date, I want to get the date only. Datetime.time, I want to get the time. Then datetime.delta. Time delta allows you to get a specific duration using mathematical computation. Now, we'll come to that. Let's look at how I can also create a date for myself. Now, I can also say, if I want to create a date, for example, I can ask the user to give me the year, the month, and the day, and put it into this function here, and then it will generate a date for me. When I save this and run this, it generates a date. The date is 25th December 2022. So I can create, if I want to store a birthday or take something, I can tell you that enter your birthday, give me the year, give me the month, give me the day, and then I put it into this datetime.date function. It will convert it and generate a date. So this information here is now a date, and I can get information from it that I can use. Okay, let's look at another practical example. For instance, I can say date time dot date dot today. This will give me the current date today. Now I can say dot year dot month dot day to get the day, year, and month from it. So the year is 2023, the month is 6th, that's June, and today is 10th. So if I have a date, for example, I let you enter your birthday, I can break it down to know the year, the month, and the day from it. And there are so many practical ways we can use the date and time for a lot of what you want to do. Okay, so we can also look at the time aspects. Let me comment this out. We can also look at the time aspect. Now, from date time, I can import time. So in the previous example, I could have also said from date time, import date, and then work with only dates. But I can also say import date time. Now, this way of calling a model means that you know the particular function within the model that you have imported that you want to use. So we are saying that from my date time model, I want to import only the time aspect. Now, this would not take a lot of memory in space, a lot of memory space, because I'm only importing what I want to use. But when I said import date time, this one imported all the things down here for me to use. Maybe I only want dates to do something. I don't want the rest. So you can import the model, or from the model, you can import the particular function within the model that you want to use. So in this example here, I'm saying from date time, import time. Then I'm saying time has been given to a variable called A. When I print it, it gives me the time. I can also create a time whereby I say time, I provide the hour, month, and seconds. You have to provide in that order: hour, month, hour, minutes, and seconds. Now, I can also provide the variables and give the answer, the information I want to give to it, so that I don't get confused. So hour is equal to 11, minute is equal to 34, seconds is equal to 56, and I print it out. Good. I can also add a milliseconds and use it to create a time. When I do that, it also print the time for me. Okay, so when I clear this and I run this, I get all the information that I had put here. So this is how you can also call the time. And from the time to, I can say the A that we saved the variable in A. So I can say A dot hour, A dot minute, A dot seconds, A dot microseconds. So I can know the hour, the minute, the seconds, and microseconds of a particular what date. And when you're generating a date time yourself, I can the format is you provide the year first, you provide the month second, and provide the day. If you are making a date time, then you can continue with the hour, the minutes, and the seconds. Now let's look at the time delta method. The time delta method on the date time. This is a very useful command that when you're doing data processing and other things, you use a lot. So from date time, I'm importing date time, I'm importing date. So I'm generating or creating a date. I'm saying the year is 2018, the month is 7, and the day is 12. I've created another one. The year is 2017, the month is 12, and the date is 23. Now, I can subtract two dates and see the duration of the date. So I can generate my date of birth and generate today's date, and I can subtract the two and get the difference, how long it has been. Now let me save this and let's run it. Okay. So you see that between 2018 and 2017 and the day and the month, it has been 201 days. 201 days. So I can subtract date and time. Okay. Now, I've also created another date and time. This time I provided the hours, the minute, and the seconds. If I want the difference between the two, I can also do that. So I've gotten that it's negative 335 days and 1 hour, 40 minutes, and 20 seconds between these two dates. Good. Now, when I use the type command, it tells me that they are all time delta. So these are all time deltas that have been created. Now, let's look at this example too. From date time, I'm importing time delta. Now, I can say time delta. I have the weeks is 2 weeks. The day is 5. The hour is 1 and seconds is 33. And I have another time delta like this. Give me the difference between the two. Let me comment the other ones. Let's run this particular one. Okay, so if I have a time, a date, is I have 2 weeks, 5 days, 1 hour, 33 seconds, and I have 4 days, 12 hours, 4 minutes, and 54 seconds. The difference between the two is 14 days. So you see how you can start using these time deltas to be able to get difference between 2 days. For example, let's say that you've written a code. I'm supposed to provide 1 week date range from the date that I have given. So I can use the time data that the information I've given me, if I add +7, is it 1 week within that range? If not 1 week, then it's an error. So by using that test, now, when the user enters the information, I can test to confirm whether it is a 1 week or 2 weeks interval. If it's not that, for example, if so, let's say you are filing your tax return, and then you're supposed to file your tax return within is it the last week of the month. So when the user is entering the dates, I can use time data to check whether this date falls within the last week of the month. If it doesn't fall within the last week of the month, then that means that the person either is paying earlier or is paying late. And if it's paying late, then penalty. So we could use time delta for all these type of scenarios. Yes. Okay, now we saw that I told you that the date and time, we can format it to be very nice, pretty. Let's look at that. That is what we call a string f time. It is a method that is your date time that we to format your to be nicer. So let me show you an example of that. So I'm saying from date time, import date time. And now date time dot now is today's date. Now I can say now dot strftr. I want you to give it to me in months, hour, minutes, and seconds. And now the date time, I want to convert it to months, day, and year. And then the hour, minute, and seconds. Let's save this. Let's see how the format looks like. Okay. So you see the first one, I got the hour, minute, and seconds. The second one, so I got it. You see the way I'm using the slash, there's a slash here, there's a slash here. So it gave it to me as a slash here and another slash here. So this has formatted the date the way I want it. Now there's another command. If I make it capital M and I save it and rerun it again. Now capital M. Let me make this one to capital D. Let me see something. Okay. Okay. When we use the percentage sign small m, it will represent the month with the starting from 0. So if the month is 1, which is January, to become 01. If the month is 2, which is February, to become 02. But if you make it capital M, it will just give you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 12. Okay. If I want to get the months, Let me convert it. This one. Oh, okay. I was working with the time aspects. Okay. Let me clear everything. I want to show you this particular one. Okay. So I'm using percentage D, percentage capital B, percentage Y. So let me save this clear around it. Okay, so you see this has given you 10th June 2023. The capital B, what the capital B does is that it will give you the name of the month instead of giving you it as a number representation as 06 or 6 to give you the name. So the name for that month is what? June. So that's why June was printed out for you. So the string formatting can be used to convert your date and your time to niceable or pretty ones which a user can understand, because first that 0605 slash 2023 you might get confused. Is it the month first or the day first? But when you do something like this, you know that okay, 10 June 2023. So yeah, let's note, I'll give you the various string. There are lots of them. I'll give you the various string representation so that you can use it to make your date and your time prettier. Any question? Okay, so let's continue. We want to look at how we can work with file in Python. We want to see how we can work with files in Python. Okay. Now, opening and reading of file is one important task that you would be doing a lot. If you are doing data processing, most of your files will be giving you, those of the data will be given as text file or even as a CSV file. You need to know how to open a file, how to read information from a file, even how to write to a file, how to delete information from a file. So we are going to look at all these things. So we use the open function to be able to open a file. Now, it has other methods. So we can read, we can close the file, we can do other things to the file. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. Under my py path, I want to create a file there. So I'm going to my drive C, go to my py folder. I'm going to create a text file, new file. I'm going to name it tt. I'll make it boy.txt. Okay, so that's the name of the file. Now, I'm going to populate it with some boys' names, and then we are going to access that file and work with that file. So, okay, so I've created a text file called boy.txt. I've populated with names of boys. So we're going to work with that file. So you can create any folder, any file, put information inside, but this is what I'm creating for us to do the test. Now, so I can say document is equal to open into bracket the name of my file, boy.txt. Then I have to provide another parameter R. R means that I want to read the file. So here you can provide the full path to the file, but lesson.4 is in the same folder as my boy.txt. That's why I didn't provide any path. So it knows that it's going to check the same folder where the lesson.py and then get the information from there. Okay, so say content is equal to document.read print content. Now, open is used to open text files. And I've provided the name of the text file. And I'm telling you that you should put that file into read mode. That I want to read the information in the file. We also have write and we also have append. So we have read mode, we have write mode, and we have append. Now, I've saved it as a variable called document, and I've called a method on it called read. Read will read the information in that document, and all the information we put into content, and I can print content out. So mind you, this is not the best way of reading information from a record. If my file contains 10 million records, that means it's going to read all of this into content before I can print it out. And there are nicer ways of going about it. So we'll look at that. So when I printed content, it has generated or listed all the names, boys' names that I had saved in that file for me. Now, mind you, when you finish with your file, you need to close it. So I can say document.close to close the file so that I know that there'll be no memory space for that file there because I finished with the file, I've closed it. If you don't do that, you'll be wasting memory space. Now, I can also I can also write to a file. I can also write to a file. If I say file is equal to open, and then I'll say girl.txt, and I want to write to that file. So W. Now, if I say file.write, and I say, give me a girl's name. So let's say, which girl's name? Which girl's name?
Sally.
Sally. Okay, Sally. Now, mind you, when you watch my screen, see that I only have boy.txt file here. You don't see any girl.txt file. So what this will do that it will create the file and write the information Sally into that file. So let me save this and let me run this again. So you see that there's now a file here called girl.txt. So let me comment this particular one out because the file has been created. Now let me open girl.txt file and I'm going to read it. Let me run it. So you see the only name that came out is Sally. So we put Sally into that file. So anytime you call the write with the file and the file does not exist, it would create the file and then write into it. Okay, so let's see anything else. Now I'm going to uncomment this file again. So let me put another girl's name. Okay, let me save this and see. I run this one. Let me open this test file and see something. Okay, so now I've written it. Let me save this or comment this file. Let me uncomment this one and run it again. So the first name we saved was what? Sally. Let me save this. Let me print it again. Clear? Run this again. Now you see, it has only printed Agatha for me. It didn't print Sally. but Sally was the first name we put there. So anytime you use the W, it will clear everything in the document and then it will replace it with what we are putting in. So if we want to add, then we use the A command, append. Append will mean that it will add up to what is in the file. If you use W, which is write, if there's information in the file, it will clear the information in the file before it would generate the new information for you. But when you use A, it will be adding up to the file. So for instance, information that if you don't want to write to a database, I can create a file. Information that I pick from the user, I can be saving that information in the file, manipulate that information and generate the information out to a user. So there are so many ways that you can use what file. Now, we can also copy a file. We can also copy a file. Now, what I can do is that I can import a utility, create a class like this. New employee is equal to employee. The new employee is called, I want to get the full name. Now, I could have also decided that the class I have will not have any information. When I save this and I run it, you see that full name, nothing will come. Now, this class I've called, I can say new underscore employee dot salary. New employee dot f name and save this. When I run it again, see the name water only comes because that's the only one I have provided information from. So I can call the class and this attribute and assign it. So this information can be used as a data type. So I've created an employee data type. These are the features of the employee and these are the functions or method of the employee. So I can create a new employee, provide this information and store it, create it again, store it, create it again, store it, create it again, store it. And I can use that to create the list of employees and I can access the attribute and get information that I can use to do anything on it. Now, so this is a very simple and beginner-friendly approach to classes. So tomorrow, when we meet for the in-person training, we would look at a lot of examples with all that we have done so far, including classes and how we can use it to be able to perform tasks. So that is it for class. A class is like a blueprint, and we can use a class to create another data type. So if you have any form of data which does not conform to the normal data type, you can create as a class. I can even say that the name here, the skills here, I can create it as a list. I can put the information in it. So it can mix all the data types together, create it as a class, and then use it to be able to do your work. And these are the attributes of the class. And then you have methods of a class also. If you get this concept like this, it becomes very easy for us to do what? Use classes. And tomorrow when we meet, we'll use classes to do a lot of what? Example plus the other things we've learned so far. So the lesson note is ready and the assignments are also ready. The lesson notes are provided at the end of the lesson notes. The assignments are there. So after this, we'll share it with you in the video for you to go through. I know there are a lot of concepts, but these ends all the concepts we want to gather. So tomorrow, we will start applying them to real life scenarios. If you're not able to do that tomorrow, Then the next week, Saturday, we'll have another session whereby I'm going to give a practical question or a test. Then we have to see how you're going to combine all that we've learned to be able to solve them. So that's what we'll do. So on that note, if there's no question, I think we can bring today's session to a close. So those are what we hope to learn on this session. And I know that we've been able to achieve that. So please, if you have any question, you can DM me, or you can put a question on the main page and you can all answer it together. So you go through the notes and go through the video. I know you'll be okay. Any question?
Hello, sir.
Yes,
Please, last week's lesson notes,
yes.
I didn't see any quiz or assignment at the end. I was trying to contact George, but what he sent me looked like a trial that you sent. I just want to confirm if there was an assignment in last week's lesson
Yes, there's
notes.
an assignment at the end. Didn't I give a heading called assignment or
No, and the one
hands-on? There
that
was no hands-on.
no, the one that George sent to me was in all the other notes. So it said try something, but when you go through all the notes, each of them has a try. So it's like you're giving an example on how to try it and see the methods that we are using. So in fact, I didn't see any quiz or assignment, unless there's anything like that. And if you can screenshot it and send it onto the page for us. But going through the full thing, I didn't see any quiz or assignment over there.
Okay, let me just confirm. Okay, so please, we'll resend it again.
Okay. All right.
We'll resend it again because each each one has assignments at the end. So we'll resend it again.
Okay. All right. Sure. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So any more questions? So do I get you're all on the same page, you're understanding, or you would want time to go through the lesson notes and then assimilate what has been taught so far?
I think the best is to go get the recordings and then go through again.
Okay. So please, when you go through and you have any issue, please let me. I'm always available. So tomorrow we are going to recap all that we are going to do and going to do a lot of examples. If you're not able to finish with the examples, we'll meet next week, Saturday, and then I'll give us put a question down. We'll analyze the question. We'll see how we are going to go about it. We solve it, and then we take another one. Then by that, we see that you will see the importance of what we've learned and how we can combine them to be able to do the various tasks. So that you see that okay, this is how I can add this and this to be able to do this. This is how I can do this and this to be able to do this. So that's how we'll go about it.
No, not really.
Okay. Okay. So on that note, we'd like to end here. So we'll resend the lesson 3 and with the quiz, and then we'll send the lesson 4 also. Are you okay? Okay. So thank you very much. So let's be getting a lot of comments on the our page so that we can interact with you and then help resolve any issue that comes your way. Thank you. Okay. So on that note, I would like to bring this session to an end. We'll send you the video and the lesson notes and we resend the lesson 3 and all the quiz or the assignment you're supposed to do. Okay, thank you very much.